Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 modding video. Today we're talking about the attachment pack, a mod project I've been working on for now over a year. This project has been scrapped a couple of times, but now it is in its final version and it is actually going to be releasing very soon. Well, relatively speaking. I know those of you who have been following the channel for a long time know that the attachment pack is something I've been wanting to do ever since I started making mods. It was actually the first thing I ever made a model for, and since then that project has gone under so many revamps, but now I finally have the final picture of what I want the mod to be in my head, and I think it's made some serious progress in the right direction. Now, having restarted this so many times, starting from scratch seems like it would take forever, but luckily I do have the wonderful help of Pig to help me implement a lot of these models and ideas into the game, just so we have two people working on it rather than just one. So this should come out much faster, especially since he's handling a lot of the CK side of things, which personally I hate doing and is why my mods take so long to come out. So you can thank Pig for when this thing actually comes out in full release. Now then, in today's video, we're going to talk about what me and Pig have made in the last month or so, and there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. Now, this isn't everything that's going to be in the attachment pack, nor is it everything I've made already. So if you want to see even more of the stuff that is possibly going to be in the full release, go ahead and check out my mod playlist on my channel. There is a ton of updates over there on the attachment pack, so you can see some of the other stuff for the other weapons. But today, we're going to be talking about the Nuka World AK and the 44, as that is what my focus has been on. I've been taking it one weapon at a time, giving it all the attachments it needs, and then moving on to the next weapon. I feel like that's the best way to approach this project, and so as of right now, the most recent things we've done is the Nuka World AK and the 44, and also the Western Revolver, as that's kind of lumped in with the 44. Now, in case you are new to the channel and the attachment pack is something you haven't quite heard of yet, the goal of this mod is to add a ton of attachments to flesh out the vanilla weapons, to make them more on par with some of the modded weapons you've downloaded, to give them more variety, and to help fill in some of the gaps that were left by Bethesda, as well as make some minor tweaks to make some of the vanilla options have a bit more flair. I should have some footage playing on screen now of some of the cool stuff that is available that we've made so far, but I think the best way to showcase some of this stuff is just to go right in game and check all of this stuff out. So, without further ado, let's hop into the weapons workbench and start with that Nuka World AK. So, let's go ahead and get started with this handmade Nuka World AK. There's some fun stuff that we wanted to include. Now, I really haven't touched the receiver section at all, as I don't think there's much that needs to be done here. I actually think that the Nuka World AK is one of the receivers that has the best options. Not only does it have all of the options you'd expect from a weapon, but they're all different in the way that the gun looks, which I really appreciate as a player. So I think the Nuka World AK is just fine in that regard. But barrels, I wanted to add some more options to let you get some of the real world AK variants, as well as some more goofy stuff on top of that. So we have all of the standard AKs, though you'll notice right off the bat something new. We have the suppressed barrel, which is very obviously a slightly tweaked VSS barrel. Now, I really wanted to have this as an option to kind of make it easier for you to get a suppressor on this weapon without having all of the crazy perks required by the regular suppressor. You'll see that the regular suppressor for the Nuka World AK has a requirement of Gun Nut 4 and Rifleman 5, which is pretty crazy and oddly specific that it needs Rifleman for this. So Pig and I decided that for the suppressed barrel, it would instead require Sneak, as this is intended to be a stealthier option. Now, if for all intents and purposes, this is just a suppressed barrel, but you will not be able to throw on any muzzle attachments, so that is the trade-off. It's easier to craft this thing, but it's not going to be able to have all of the customization that you would have on a regular barrel, so that's just something to keep in mind. Now then, we also have the rest of the Nuka World barrels, but as we go down, you'll even see the lightweight barrel, which is just going to add a polymer option instead of wood. The reason for this is there are a handful of black stocks, and so it would be nice to have something to pair with those visually. But it does have the benefit of also being lighter, but having worse recoil. Then, as we move on, we have the close quarters barrel, which is a fun little shorty barrel that is going to increase the rate of fire and reduce the AP cost. Now, does it make sense for a barrel to increase the rate of fire? No, not really. But it is pretty fun, and I wanted something that would increase the rate of fire. You can pair this with the rapid receiver and have a really fast firing CQB AK, so that's pretty cool. We also have the infiltrator barrel, which will be that old school Chinese style foregrip. Now, I had to make some tweaks to make it fit onto the AK, as they are not the same weapon whatsoever, but I like to imagine that one of the Nuka World Raiders got a hold of a Chinese assault rifle, really liked the foregrip, and decided to put it on their AK, and that's how it got here. I also just really like that little heat shield that came on it. It's pretty cool looking. We also have, as we move down through here, we have the support barrel, which is going to take that same Chinese AK style foregrip, but also throw on a much longer barrel with a bipod and carry handle, making this a true support weapon. Now you can throw on a big stock and a drum mag and turn this AK into an LMG like an RPK, so I think that's pretty cool. Plus, this gives some really cool RPD vibes with that foregrip, though it's sort of a mishmash of all of that. Now, for stocks, we have some stuff that pairs really nice with all of those newly added barrels. We have the folding stock, which is going to add the classic AK underfolder. We have the full stock, which the AK never had in the base game, so now you do have a classic AK-47 style full stock. So you don't need to download any mods that add those. This will just come with the attachment pack by itself. We have the infiltrator stock, which is the classic Chinese assault rifle stock, and I think that looks super cool on this weapon. We've got the tactical stock, which will be a little bit more modern, but not pushing the boundaries of tactical. This is going to use all in-game assets with a polymer retexture to some of the vanilla stuff. Then we have the support stock, which is going to be a PKM style stock. Again, using vanilla assets, that's actually just the Gauss rifle stock, but with a retexture on it. And then we've got the heavy stock, which is going to add that cool RPK style stock that I really, really like. Pair that with a support barrel, and you've got yourself a nice little LMG. For magazines, believe it or not, we do actually have some additions. There are all these standard mags that you'd expect, but we also have the infiltrator magazines. Now, the purpose of these is to add a rechamber to the weapon to make it into 5.56, like the Chinese assault rifle was in the past games. Here's the large version of that infiltrator mag, just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. It gives that classic look and adds the 5.56 rechamber so that you actually have a common ammo type, as 7.62 is only found in Nuka World in the base game, so it would be nice to have something a little bit more plentiful in the Commonwealth. Additionally, we added a high-capacity magazine to be a sort of middle ground between the large mag and the drum mag, and this is going to add that really cool extended bakelite mag. Throw that on with the different RPK parts and you'll have a really cool looking AK. Additionally, though, on top of all of that, we did add a shotgun rechamber, so if you want a weird makeshift Saiga, this could be it. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but I kind of went more for cool factor and gameplay purposes as opposed to immersion. In my opinion, I think that's just a bit more important. Now, as of right now, there are no sight options in the base attachment pack, as I wanted to approach this in the form of optic packs later on that will have different themed optics so that it doesn't add a ton of bloat to the game. That way you can pick and choose which scopes you want. However, there will be one scope added to the attachment pack that is the only attachment not implemented for the AK yet, and that is my laser sight, which you've probably seen floating around. Again, if you haven't, it's in my mod playlist. But that's just going to add a functional laser sight that you can aim with, and I think that's pretty neat. And then we actually didn't add any muzzles to the AK, as I don't think this one needed it. Again, this is one where they actually did it right and gave the muzzle brake and the compensator different looks, and this has a suppressor and multiple bayonet options, so I think that the Nuka World AK is actually fine in this regard. However, I cannot say the same about the 44 pistol. We've gone ahead and done quite a bit here. Now, this one doesn't have everything implemented yet, but I'll show you everything we have, which is, to be fair, most of the stuff. There's only a couple things that aren't in just quite yet, but I'll have a section after this where we talk about some of those things, as I do have the models in Blender. Now then, for the receivers, it looks pretty standard right now, but I do have plans to add a new receiver for a 38 rechamber up here. That way, if you find a 44 early in the game, as there is one that you can find at level 1, you have the ability to rechamber it to 38 and use a very common round, but it is going to mean less damage. Then for barrels, this is where the most fun is had. We have the standard barrel, and then the shortest barrel in the base game is the snub nose, but I wanted one even shorter, or really Pig wanted one, and that is the concealment barrel. Tiny little guy here that does add some improved stealth options. Now, what that means is, even though it's not suppressed, it will have the ability to conceal you more while you use it, and I believe you also move faster while sneaking if you have this weapon equipped. Then we have all the standard stuff, bull barrel, but as you see now we have the heavy barrel, which is going to add the classic Colt Python style barrel. And I gotta say, it may not look like it's super here in the weapons workbench, but when you take this thing in game and hold it on your character, I think I did a pretty good job of matching the textures on here, but the lighting is just really weird in the weapons workbench. We also have the ported barrel, which is going to add a nice little compensator option. I could have added a whole new section for compensators and muzzle brakes to the 44, but I wanted to keep things as vanilla as possible to avoid conflictions with other mods. But I think this came out pretty decent, and I think it looks really cool. We also see the recoil compensating barrel. Now, this is another one of those things where I traded a little bit of realism for some more fun. This is going to place the barrel lower on the weapon rather than up high, making it a little bit more like a Rhino or a Mateba or whatever you want to think of, having that low barrel, and this is going to help control the recoil on the weapon. And this is also going to have a built-in glow sight, as there is no glow sight option in the vanilla game. Additionally, we have a suppressed barrel. Now, can revolvers have suppressor, or at least can this revolver have a suppressor? Not really. However, I have seen online some very interesting suppressor designs that look quite a bit like this. The only difference between mine and those is that they have a huge hinge right here with a cover that goes over the entire cylinder to trap all of the gas inside. But that would require some very serious animating to do all of that, something I am not quite capable of. So I took some liberties and tried to make this as immersive as possible, but it's not going to work 100%. But I still think it looks really cool and has a very interesting sci-fi Fallout-y design that I think looks pretty interesting and at least very unique. For grips, we do have one new grip. We have the standard and comfort from the vanilla game, but we also have the wire stock here, which is going to allow you to get some better recoil control, but there actually is going to be a full stock option. I haven't quite put that in the game just yet, but that's actually probably going in today after this video goes up. But I can show it to you in Blender, so you'll just have to sit tight for that one. And then for sights, we do actually have one new sight, and that is the glow ring sight. Like I said, there is no glow sight in the base game, and rather than doing the standard little 2 dots, I thought it would be fun to throw on a glow ring, and this is pretty cool. If you pair it with any of the barrels that have a glow front sight, it makes for a really cool sight picture, and I just gotta say, I like it a lot. I think it came out pretty cool. Now let's talk about the Western Revolver. You may think that it has all the same attachments as the 44, but another thing I wanted to achieve in this mod is to make all of these redundant weapons actually feel different. The same is going to be true for the combat rifle and combat shotgun, which are basically the same weapon except that they shoot different ammo. So the idea is I'm going to have a lot of attachments that are completely unique to each weapon to make them actually feel like their own weapon. And the same is true for this Western Revolver. Now, for right now there are no receivers, but just in the same way that the 44 has a 38 rechamber, this will have a rechamber to 4570 government, including a tweak to the receiver mesh to make it much, much larger to make space for those new rounds. So you will have a potential really high damage revolver now. For barrels, we do have a couple of barrel options. We have the addition of a new short barrel, because believe it or not, the Western Revolver had no short barrel option in the base game. And what I went for, rather than the standard 44, is I added the police barrel from New Vegas. That design looks really cool, and I think it makes a pretty nice pair with this revolver. We also have the heavy barrel, the Colt Python barrel. It was just too cool of a model not to throw on the Western as well. We have the long compensated barrel, which is going to add an extremely long barrel with a nice little compensator on the end, and then the suppressed barrel as well. Now, rather than the crazy contraption for this one, I just went ahead and threw on the Far Harbor suppressor. I know, again, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Would this work in real life? No, but just look at it. It looks so cool, and I think it really fits that Western style. So if you're going to have a suppressor on this thing, you might as well do it this way. When it comes to grips, we actually do have a couple options. We have the standard and sharpshooters from the base game, but we also have the newly added Rad Staghorn grip, which is basically a Staghorn grip, except it comes from a Rad Stag, because this is Fallout. I'm really proud of this texture. I think it came out super cool. And then we also have the Deathclaw grip, which is made by Pig. Pig actually did the texture on this one, and I insisted that if we're going to have a Deathclaw one, we may as well give it a Deathclaw claw on the bottom as well, which is going to give this thing some serious additional bashing damage, which I think is pretty neat. And I wanted to make it fit that Western theme where you're actually killing things and putting them on your weapon, so that's why we have Rad Stag parts and Deathclaw parts, and I think that's pretty cool. But we also have another option for this weapon, and that is the sight section, where we can throw on the target sights. This one's a bit goofy and pretty much inspired by Borderlands. I'll go ahead and equip these so you can see them in game, because it's kind of hard to see what they do in the weapons workbench. But basically, this is going to add a really interesting new Western-ish style sight. There wasn't a ton like this in the real world, but I do like the style of the Jacobs weapons in the Borderlands series. As you can see, you have two rings, one with a vertical line, one with a horizontal line, and when you aim down sights, they make a nice little crosshair. Now again, would this work in real life? Absolutely not. There's absolutely no way to keep this thing centered and on target. But in the vacuum of a video game, this makes a really fun sight, and I think it's one of my favorite sights to use on the Revolver right now. It's super accurate, and it's just really cool looking in first person. But it's a bit more on the goofy side, not super realistic, but if it's your thing, it's going to be available in the attachment pack. Now then, before we wrap up here, there is some stuff I want to show off in Blender real quick, including some upcoming additions in the optic pack that will be coming out. One of the first ones I have planned is a West Tech optic pack, which will add some cool new scopes into the game for all of the vanilla weapons. And you'll see it here on this AK, which also has another little sneak peek for my upcoming junk attachment pack, which will come out sometime after the regular attachment pack. But here we have my West Tech reflex sight. I wanted to give something that had a traditional reflex style look, but also completely unique and very Fallout. And I think the profile of this little sight kind of fits that. It's not modern, it's not too tactical, it doesn't look like something in the real world, but it looks like something that I think Fallout could use. And I even gave it a nice little gamma cell here, ripped off of the gamma gun. I may replace that in the future, but for now that is the power source for this weapon, since I don't think too many Fallout things have micro batteries, so I think that's a cool little alternative option. But that's not the only thing coming in the West Tech optic pack. We also have the West Tech Hollow sight, which again, I wanted to give something that has some ties to real-world Hollow sights, but is completely different. And I think this one came out really, really cool. I'm quite happy with the design and the profile of it, and I think it looks good mounted on a weapon. I like the size of it. I think the exposed wires will be pretty cool with a nice little button to activate it. I'm pretty proud of this one. I think it comes out pretty cool. There will be more sights added in the West Tech optic pack, but I just wanted to show off some of the stuff that I had already. One more thing, we have that full stock I promised for the 44 Revolver. Now this is what it'll look like on the 44. It'll have a nice little cheek rest on it, as well as a cool little wooden foregrip on the barrel. This will actually come as a separate barrel option for you to add on, so you can use it with or without the stock, which I think is pretty cool for customization's sake. And there will be a version of this for the Western as well, but the Western one is not going to include the cheek rest, and the barrel is going to be much, much longer. So it will be a little bit more for sniping on the Western Revolver, whereas on this one, it's just a nice little comfort stock that will have some pretty interesting bonuses in terms of stats. But yeah, I think that covers just about everything that I've been up to since we last talked about mods. It's been a lot of fun making the attachment pack, and I can't wait to move on to some other weapons. Now, if you've seen my older videos, all of the stuff that came with the hunting rifle, the combat rifle, the SMG, the pistols, I don't even remember what all I got done. Those are all still saved on my hard drive, and I do plan on implementing those on the attachment pack as well. So anything you saw before still will probably make it into the full attachment pack in one way or another. So that's pretty neat. I don't know when exactly this mod's going to be finished, but just know I'm going to be working on it every single day with Pig. He's been a huge help in getting this thing done on time, or at least in a timely manner, rather. But yeah, we have a lot to do still, but I think it'll be fun, and I'll be posting updates on YouTube as well as a couple little sneak peeks in the Discord as well. With that, though, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. This video has been going on for quite a while now. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope these little behind-the-scenes sneak peeks are interesting to you. If you want to see more, be sure to let me know in the comments. Your feedback really helps tell me what exactly you guys want to see on the channel. So, I love covering mods, but it's fun to talk about making mods as well. With that, I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thanks to all my patrons for supporting every single video. I absolutely couldn't do it without you guys. Peace!